A fascinating back and forth occurred on CNN between the host, Aaron Burnett, and Mick Mulvaney. Of course, worked in the Trump administration as the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and then at one point in time was the acting chief of staff to Trump. And when he was in the Trump administration, he was against the usage of the debt ceiling as a negotiation tactic because, as we have talked about here, whenever you have to be willing to follow through on a threat, and the threat is not raising the debt ceiling, and the ramifications of not raising the debt ceiling are disastrous, that is a very bad place to go. And when you're saying, as the Republican Party is right now, we want to cut spending, and we're not going to raise the debt ceiling unless the Democrats agree to cutting spending, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the debt ceiling has nothing to do with new spending. That is following through on financial obligations we've already committed to. Spending, we're just paying off, the analogy that people use is we're just paying off our credit card bill. This is not new spending. And so negotiations about new spending should happen when you're actually authorizing that new spending, in my opinion. And it used to be Mick Mulvaney's opinion. He's now shifted it, and I loved the way that the host pressed him on that. And one of the things he said was just so telling.
Of course, we're in the White House. You were the OMB director for President Trump in 2019. Debt ceiling comes around. You all wanted to raise it. Here's what he said then about the debt ceiling.
I can't imagine anybody ever even thinking of using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge. That's a very, very sacred thing in our country, debt ceiling. We can never play with it.
Mick, he said, I can't imagine anybody thinking of using it as a negotiating wager. A few weeks later, you announced that you and Trump's advisors all agreed that a debt ceiling hike should not be tied to any other policy proposals. You wanted a clean debt ceiling raise. Yet this time I saw that you tweeted that you support the House Republicans who are insisting on spending cuts in exchange for a debt ceiling deal. What's changed? Why are you okay with it this time?
Well, I do. I think that if you got a situation like you have now where the Republicans are in charge of the House and
Okay, and I want you to watch as he answers this question. The other correspondent on the right of the screen, because the facial expressions that come from her are exactly what I was feeling while watching this. And he says a whole lot of words, and he says it as if it's making sense. But all he's doing is just saying, well, because now I kind of wanna, I just wanna,
the Democrats
because it's the Republicans.
In charge of the Senate and the White House. Doesn't it just make sense that there would be some sort of compromise? Yes, if all three, if one party's in charge of all branches of government, like the Democrats have been for the last couple of years, or were under Barack Obama, or we were during the early days of Trump, it's not surprising that they don't reach out to the other party. Under these circumstances, with a divided government, I don't understand why there isn't more discussion. And to the MAGA wing of the party.
So your issue was, you're saying the issue you have it now is just, I'm sorry, Mick, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, is you're saying that this is about politics. When there's divided, that you're fine with a negotiation, but not when it's all one party. So it's not actually about the debt ceiling being sacred and debt being sacred.
That's how Washington works, Aaron. I mean, that's how it worked for the last 2 years. No one seemed to complain about it. That's just how Washington has always.
What are you saying? Do you or do you not think, as Trump said in that clip, and at the time you agreed with, the debt ceiling is sacred? Do you agree with that sentiment or not? That's the question, not a hooba-jooba-jooba-jooba-jee.
Always worked. Look, you've got a situation here where you can do something like Barack Obama did back in 2011, and I think it was 13 as well, where he gave a little bit, the Democrats got a lot, and we increased the debt ceiling. Why doesn't that model work here? Why isn't it just as unreasonable to say you're not going to do anything, like the Democrats are saying, as the Republicans have said they want everything? Keep in mind, it's not the MAGA wing of the party.
So using a lot of words to not really answer the question, do you or do you not support, or are you not okay with using the debt ceiling as a negotiation tactic when it is so crucial that we raise it? It should be something that we can brawl it out over here when we're debating spending, when we actually have the power to either spend or not spend, when we authorize different spending going towards different programs. But once we've spent the money and we're just paying our bills, my personal opinion, and Mick Mulvaney has been on multiple sides of it, is that just needs to happen because we will follow through on our obligations. So that's not where we're going to try to get political wins in or policy wins at all. And it is fascinating because he said, quote, "That's how Washington works," which is so fascinating and telling, because he's admitting there, seems at least to be, to Aaron Burnett that, well, come on, are you asking me if I keep the same principle over multiple years? No, the principle is just something I say at a particular time if it's advantageous. Then, if it's not later, I flip it. And everybody does that. It's Washington. That's how Washington works. What are you talking about? Some of us, Mick, try to hold principles, because that's what makes them principles, no matter the circumstances for the most part, and try to be consistent with these types of stances. Maybe not something he understands.